hope everybody is fabulous. So, in today's fabulous tutorial, we are going to be making these little witches boots that I created myself. This is my own little creation. I wanted to do a witch's boot that did not require a die and it did not require an electric cutting machine. So I said, let's do it to where anybody could do it without any fancy machines. And so this is what I came up with. This is my prototype, guys. So she is a little messed up because, you know, she has all the measurements and it's a thinner paper and stuff like that. But I did decorate it to kind of give myself the idea of what I wanted it to look like. And in today's video, we are going to be making this bad boy. Bam! Boo-boo. So this is now the finished product after I tweaked out all of the tweaks and I made it kind of perfect. Then my little design now is kind of a little bit flawless. It's a little flawless. And this is the little bad boy that we will be making today. How cute is this, right? So we're going to be making this little bad boy. It is kind of a long video. I'm so sorry about that, my little crafty monsters. But there is a lot of steps that go into making this little bad boy right here. But I'm going to tell you right now that it is completely worth it. I know you guys could do it. I know you guys can. So definitely give this a little try. Now, just so you guys will see, this is my little blueprint. This is the little boot that I actually drew. And I went ahead and I kept it down to the bottom. So it could be, this could be like, you know, just a regular flat surface. And I was going to do a little ruffle, but I didn't end up doing the ruffle. What I just said was, what if we just fill it with the eyelash trim and very tiny little lace? And that's what we did. So we went ahead and we took that off. I will have this basically on my Facebook, so you guys will be able to save the photo of this or the PDF file or whatever it is that I'm going to put on. I'm going to try to figure out how to do that. But I am going to have this onto my Facebook as well as the instructions for the actual sides, the strips. Now these ones I wanted to just tell you guys really quick. Right here you're going to see that I'm going to mark all along the parts where there's really no scoring going on. And that's the reason why. I mean, the reason why is because we are going to be turning that into tabs. Damn, boo-boo, calm down. Calm down. You're getting tongue twisted. So those are going to become tabs. So you don't have to score that. You guys are going to see the little instructions on how I explain that to you guys. And let's not waste any more time, guys, because I know you guys want to get down and dirty. So let's get down and dirty, boo-boos. And I will see you in a bit. Alrighty then, my little crafty monsters. Let's get down and dirty and make this little bad boy right here. So, this is the little witch's boot that we are going to be making. Well, this is my prototype, so we're going to be making one better than this. We're going to be making it look professional. So, after I tweaked out all of the little tweaks that I needed to, we are going to go ahead and start off making our little boot. This is the blueprints. This is my little drawings. I drew this myself. And then I copied it. And then I used that to cut out my template. So I went ahead and I cut out a template using the copied one. Then that paper that I used to cut out my template, I went ahead and I cut out a template for my DSP paper. And I will show you guys how we went ahead and we achieved that. So right now we're going to go ahead and just trace out the boot on whatever color cardstock that you guys want to make these out of. I would recommend that you make these out of 110-pound cardstock or heavier if possible. Well, maybe not heavier, because the heavier it is, when you score it and fold it, it will break. I have had experiences on that with heavier cardstocks, but I think 110-pound works perfect because that's what we are using here. Now for the DSP paper, we're going to need to make this a little bit smaller. So what I did was, that copy paper that I took out, I went ahead and I cut that even smaller. So I'm going to cut it about, I would say, 1/4 of an inch. So what I did was I got my ruler and I saw the 1/4 of an inch line, and then I started marking. But I went with that 1/4 inch line on the ruler and I traced my boot out, marking every so often on the curves. Then this will give you that that little guideline to where you would be tracing and making it about 1/4 of an inch smaller. You're going to do that around the whole entire boot. Then you're going to cut that out, and then you have your little paper, and then I use that to make a template for my DSP paper. So now we're ready to go ahead and choose the DSP paper of your choice, and there is a lot of beautiful Halloween paper out there. So this is the winner for me right here. I really loved how the gold and the orange look together, and because it's also metallic, so I thought that it would make the boot look a little bit fancy. So right here we're going to go ahead and trace out the DSP paper template, the one that's a little bit smaller, and we're going to go ahead and make sure that we are tracing this to where it is going to match up with the boot. So in other words, this one you have to do it in this direction, so that it's the front of the boot, and then for the back part of the boot, you're going to go ahead and flip that template the opposite direction, if that makes any sense. Does it make sense? Yeah, it makes sense. And so right here, like I said, you are just going to have to be very careful when you're tracing out this DSP paper, because trust me when I tell you, Jesse has effed it up before, and I traced out the boot kind of like in the same direction, so I got 2 of the same sides, if that also makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. So right here, we're going to go ahead and cut out our little drawings of our little boots. And so we're going to do that to all of our paper, get it all ready. And once we have all of these little boots cut out, then we're going to go ahead and start cutting out the strips. So let's go ahead and do that, and we're done. So these are the little bad boys that are done. I'm going to go ahead and erase the little pencil marks, because you could see a little bit of the pencil marks. If you did not cut it off, and you have a little bit parts where you still see the pencil, go ahead and just erase that. It's super duper easy. As for the DSP paper, because we did the tracing on the back side of the paper, nobody's ever going to see that, so you don't have to worry about that. So now what we are going to do is we're going to go ahead and distress my little DSP paper, because I do want it to look a little bit distressed. This works in 2 ways. Number one, it kind of makes it feel like a little Halloween-y, because it's kind of grunging it up. You're inking the edges. And the second part of doing this is that if you did not cut a real smooth line with your scissors, inking the edges is going to just soften that, and so you won't be able to see those rough cuts. And you know, we're not machines, so we can't cut like completely perfect, but we could attempt to. And if you don't, inking the edges will help you mask that. Not to mention, we are going to use some little bling ribbon to go ahead and, you know, emphasize on where the DSP paper starts. So that's another reason why I'm not really too worried about the way we cut this, even though I did try to go as perfect as possible. So once you have everything inked, go ahead and just start to glue this onto your boot. And this is the part where I told you that you have to be careful when you trace out the DSP paper, because you have to make sure that the DSP paper is going to be showing on the side that you want it to show when you're tracing it out. And so I'm going to go ahead and use my little roller just to smooth out all of this little paper and make sure that there is no little bumps or lumps or anything like that. And so while this is drying, we're going to go ahead and set that aside. And then we need another sheet of paper, same weight paper. So if you're using 110 pound, please use the same size. And we're going to cut 3 strips. Now these strips are all going to be cut to 2.5 inches. And then we're going to go ahead and cut it down to 8 3/4, and then another one at 10.5, and then the last one at 9 1/4. Now for the front one, which is this one right here, this is the front one. Now this is the part where we went ahead and we did an alteration on this. So you're going to notice that on all of the strips, we're going to go ahead and score it at 1/2 inch and at 2 inches. This is going to give us the base for the tabs. Now this is the one that we went ahead and altered it. This one you want to score it at 3/8 of an inch. And the reason why is because we're going to go ahead and explain that once we're putting this little bad boy together. But make sure that you go ahead and you score that first one at 3/8 of an inch as well, not only at the 1/2 inch and at the 2 inches, if that makes sense. So let me go ahead and just explain this one. Now, this is the back strip. The back strip, we're going to go ahead and do 2 scores, one at 7.5 and one at 9. And then on the portrait side, we also scored it at 1/2 an inch and at 2 inches. Like I said, all the strips are going to be scored at 1/2 an inch and at 2 inches on the portrait side. And then you're going to go ahead and flip it to the landscape side, and you're going to go ahead and do all the other scoring. Now on this one, this is the bottom part of the boot, so there is a lot more scoring to do. We're doing it at the 3/8, then we do it at 1 3/8, then 2 3/8, then 3 3/4, and then 6 1/4, 7 3/4, and 8 3/4. And that will go ahead and give you the panel for the bottom part of your boot. And because there's a lot more folding on that one and a little bit more corners, that's why there's a lot more scoring on that one. So I do understand that it's going to be a little bit difficult for you guys to see these score lines on this black paper when you're not in front of it, because on the camera it's kind of hard to see those. But just so you know that that you can go ahead and trace this with a pencil, if you will help you to see the score lines. Now right here where the score lines start, we're going to go ahead and just make some little markings, and these are going to be 1/2 an inch apart, and these are going to be my markings where it's going to tell me where I need to cut and turn that into a tab. Right now it probably does not make sense, my little crafty monsters, but trust me, once you see when I start cutting this, then you're going to be like, ah, that's what he's doing. So these markings are just on the strips that do not have the score. This one right here that I'm cutting right now, remember this little tab, you have to score it on the landscape at 3/8 of an inch, because that's going to be that little tiny point of our boot. And I did kind of forget to score this on that scoreboard. So, like I said, you have to score this one at 3/8 of an inch. So right here on those marks that we went ahead and marked, we're just going to have to cut those out in a little triangle just to make these into little tabs. And so your strip of paper should basically look like this. Why do we need to do this? Because when we're gluing this down, this is going to be making it a lot easier for that paper to be glued down and to be curved. Anytime that you have any places that need to be curved, this is what you would have to do. And we are going to go ahead and do that to this paper as well. These have a little tab at the end, so just make the tab at the end where they're going to be attached, and I did about 1/4 of an inch just so that you could attach each strip to each other. And on this one there is 2 scores, which is that one tab that is scored at 9 inches, and then the other score that is at 7.5. This is the back strip. This is going to be the back part of your boot. You don't have to make the little tabs. Those are just regular size tabs, the size that it is. These ones right here are going to be curving on the back part heel of your boot, and it's going to be curving that in part, if that makes any sense. And that's why we're doing that to this little bad boy. Once you have all of your strips cut, they should look like this, and we are ready to assemble it. Just go ahead and fold all of your little tabs. Make sure that it is a crisp fold, and then we can go ahead and start gluing these little bad boys onto our boot. So this part right here is a little bit tedious because, you know, you have to hold it down and all that stuff. I use liquid glue on this little bad boy. You could use some hot glue, but I felt that using hot glue will be a little bit more secure. Yes, it will, but it also kind of would be hard to do the hot glue. So I felt that my old reliable Eileen's glue is perfect. So now I'm just adding glue on a few tabs, and then I'm going to go ahead and start molding this to the edge of my boot. And I want to hold this down a little bit just to give that glue enough time to really get tacky and tack onto that. And then right here, this is the part where it's going to start getting a little bit more harder because now you have half of that strip glued onto your boot, and then you have to kind of like bend down the tabs to add a little bit of glue on that. Now, right here, I'm being very, very careful that it's all lined up. See how I'm kind of lining it up? And I feel that putting the boot down on the table and then using your fingers to curve and hold it at the same time, making it really smooth on the outside, because you want this to look perfect, guys. I mean, especially if you're going to be giving this to somebody. If it's going to be just decor on your home, well then, by all means, you could do it however you want, because this could also work as a really cute little vase. Obviously, you're not going to fill it up with water, but you could put some silk black, Halloween flowers and little decor into these little boots and kind of make them like a little centerpiece if you want. But this one's going to be a little treat box. I am going to fill this up with little treats and candies. And I'm going to give it to my little special little. And she's going to be super happy. I call her my littles because she's short. She's short and cute though. So, that's a good combo. Now remember that little 3/8 of an inch that I kept telling you guys you had to score? This is the part where I realized I forgot to score that. And that was that little point on the very edge. So you want to make sure that you score that before you glue this part on. And that's that little part that I'm gluing. It's that little flat point on the end of your boot. That's the little 3/8 of an inch that you're scoring right there, okay? Make sure, you guys, that when you're doing the front strip, it's called the front strip, you do score it at 3/8 of an inch. I don't want you messaging me later, little boo-boos, telling me that I made a boo-boo on my planning. But, we caught it in time. So now I'm going to go ahead and just kind of figure out how the bottom strip is going to go. And I want to go ahead and attach that to the... See how there's a tab? You're going to attach that to your, your first piece that you just put down. And I'm going to go ahead and start gluing these tabs down. I like to do one side of the boot first because I find that it's a lot easier to do it this way. And then once you have all of these strips down on one side of your boot, then you can go ahead and put the other side of the boot on top of that. And it just makes it a little bit easier. You guys, this is super, super easy. I promise you guys. I know that it looks a little bit complicated and all that, but it is not. And I promise you guys that if you guys do try this and you make your little boot, oh my God, you guys are going to be so blown away on how cute this little treat boot is. I know there's a lot of SVG files out there, guys. I know there is. And I know that there's a lot of like little tiny dies that will cut this. Obviously the dies would be a little smaller boot because, let's face it, our Big Shot, the Big Kick, the Vagabond, whatever it is that you guys are using, most of those are not that big. So how big can you really make the treat box, right? So this is a way that you can make the treat box a little bit bigger. Now that heel right there that you guys saw, there is a little part that it is kind of sticking out a little bit. And instead of doing the alterations on the measurements and all that, all I decided to do was just leave it. And then once I put that heel, you guys will see, once you put this little heel together, that little piece of cardstock that is sticking out from the bottom, as you see right here, that one you could just cut it off. That's a simple fix right there, guys. So instead of me going to the drawing board and measuring that strip, I just left it and I said, at the end when we're putting it together, we'll just cut it off. So do have in mind that that strip's going to be a tiny bit longer by about 1/4 of an inch. And just take your scissors and cut it off, guys. So right here, this is, again, you're using the curves of the boot. So this part, I've learned that by putting down the tabs and then just holding it till it dries a little bit is the easiest way. And also because you're molding that strip to make those really nice curves on the boot. And you want the strip to be flushed with that panel, that little boot panel. We're going to call them panels. It's just going to be a lot easier. So then once you have that strip on that, boot panel, go ahead and just curve it and make sure that it's all glued on very, very nice. This is the part that does take a little bit longer. And it only takes a little bit longer because, like I said, you're waiting for that glue to dry. If you are going to use the hot glue, obviously this is going to be a little bit quicker, but what I did find was the hot glue kind of is a little bit bulky on as far as the glue, you know how it kind of bulks up a little bit sometimes when it dries. So I didn't want the edges to be, kind of messy or anything like that. So this is the reason why I felt that using the liquid glue would be a little bit easier for me. And so right here, I'm going to go ahead and glue all these little tabs down. There's some tabs that are touching each other. Just glue them all together, guys, and this will hold it down and be flat. So now for the second panel. The second panel, I want to go ahead and start gluing it on the very tip of the boot. This way, as you're going down along the whole entire boot, you're able to kind of bend that panel a little up so that you can go ahead and continue gluing those tabs down onto that panel. Does that make sense? It kind of does. So what I'm saying is, like right here, you notice how I glued the little tip part of the boot. So then just gluing one side first, you're able to add glue onto the next tabs so that you can glue that part down. I just find it that this is a little bit easier. I wish that my hands were a little bit smaller where they could fit into this little boot so I could put those tabs down. Some of you guys will probably have smaller hands than me, so you probably would be able to do that. But in this case, my big old hand doesn't fit, so I had to use a bone folder to kind of make that tab contact with the panel. And this is where you see me doing that. So like I said, just go ahead and glue all of these little tabs down, and you are completely done with building your little boot. Isn't this adorable? I'm telling you guys, this is super duper easy. And anybody can make this little witch's boot because you don't need a Cricut machine. You don't need a silhouette. You don't need the scan and cut. You definitely don't need any die cutting machines. I mean, you just need some cardstock, a ruler, a scoreboard, and some glue. And trust me when I tell you, my little crafty monsters, you guys will be so happy when you guys make one of these, because I mean, they're fun and they're cute. So now for the fun part. So the fun part is we're going to go ahead and start decorating this little bad boy. And like I said, we will be using some of this bling ribbon. And this bling ribbon, I want to just go ahead and put a little strip all around the whole entire boot where that DSP paper starts. And that's just to kind of outline the boot and also to give it a little bit of that little sparkle from this bling ribbon. Now this is optional. You guys don't have to do this part. You guys could use anything that you guys want. But in this case, I have a lot of bling ribbon, so this is another way for me to actually use it up as well. So I'm going to only do this to the very front part and to the very back part of this boot. I'm not going to worry about the sides. Using the same DSP paper, since your DSP paper was a 12 by 12 and you were able to get your two little DSP panels of your boot, you also will have enough to go ahead and do the strips. Now these strips back here, I just went ahead and I measured them to size, and you could just go ahead and use your ruler and measure it to size. Now on the width of the strips, I went ahead and I cut those to 1.5. So cutting it at 1.5, and then I just went ahead and I cut it once I glued it on here. You guys will see. So once I have this glued on here, then I'm going to go ahead and cut it at the very top. Now, you don't have to really worry too much about this, especially if you're going to be putting some lace or any eyelash yarn or any kind of trim on the edge of your boot. You don't have to worry about the paper, the DSP paper, going all the way to the very top. And so right here, using some of the scrap DSP paper that we have left over, I went ahead and I put that on the very front of the boot as well, the little tiny strip as you guys saw. And I didn't have to go all the way down to the bottom. I just did it to where it was visual and you could see it. Now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing to the back side of the boot. Just go ahead and cut a strip down to 1.5 inch and then just glue that little bad boy onto your boot and then just cut off the excess paper. Once you have that done, then you really are ready to start decorating. Now, to attach my little bling ribbon, of course, you can't use the regular glue because that's just going to take long. So we are going to have to use our hot glue on this. So go ahead and use your hot glue to put on your little bling ribbon if you are going to be doing this part. You could also use that sequence that's kind of like a sequence trim, And I think that would look really cute as well. Or you could probably use eyelash yarn going all around your boot to make it look like a little fur boot. I think that would look as adorable as well. But in this case, we kind of wanted it to look a little bit like a witch's fancy boot. So we're going to go ahead and just add the little trim. This part is probably going to be the part that's going to take the longest. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Right here, because that little GSP paper is not cut exactly squared on the very tip like the actual boot is, I went ahead and I just hid that with this little bling ribbon. So what I do is I just kind of square it off and then I just continue going. So you can't really tell that DSP paper doesn't have that square on the very edge. And that was done because when I told you guys that we were cutting off 1/4 inch, once you get to that little point, there really isn't that much 1/4 inch room to cut off. So it kind of made it into a point. But when you are using your sequence trim or whatever trim you're going to be adding onto this, you could always just hide it the way we did here and make it look square. I'm cutting each and every individual bling strip when it's kind of like boxed like this, because I want it to kind of give that box effect also. Does that make sense? Yeah, it does make sense. I didn't want it to be kind of like curved. In other words, I wanted it to be kind of like a box. So that's why I did that little section individually. Now right here, this part is a little bit hard because it's just curving. But, you know, it's still doable. If you have a hard time curving this little bling ribbon, what you could do is you could cut, there's 2 strings on the bling ribbon. You could cut one of them and it helps it to kind of curve a little bit. But I didn't really have too much of a problem with that, so it worked out perfectly. Now on my prototype, I did fill up this little heel part with a lot of the bling. But this one, I just said we're just going to do the outline. And we just went ahead and we did the outline. So, I know that this part, like I said, is taking forever. I'm so sorry about that, my little crafty monsters. But I'm telling you, this little bling ribbon, for some reason, it gives it that little extra something. Like, at first, I was like, well, I don't really think I want to add it, because when I added it to the prototype, it took forever. And then not only did it take forever, but on the prototype, I actually did it on the sides of the boot too. So that took even longer. So I said for the original one, for the one that I'm going to use to give to somebody and the one that I'm going to record myself making, this one, I'm just going to do it on the front of the boot and the back of the boot. So that's all we're going to do right here. So then once you do the back of the boot as well, excuse me, then you are completely ready to start to decorate. We're not going to film that part. We're just going to go ahead and fast forward this so we could start decorating. And here we are. So both sides are basically done. So now we want to go ahead and just add whatever trims that you guys want to add on the very top of your boot. And most of the time, whenever I see like witch's boots, I always see a black kind of lace or black fur or black something on the very edge. So I said, you know what, I'm going to throw on a little bit of purple into this little bad boy by using my purple eyelash yarn. And then underneath the eyelash yarn, I'm going to use this very cute little lace ribbon that I purchased from the Hole in the Wall that I normally go to in my downtown Los Angeles. And I'm going to go ahead and just use that to make it look kind of like, you know, very cute. So like I said, guys, this is the part where you guys could use whatever it is that you guys want. Just let your imagination take flight, my little crafty monsters. This is no wrong way to do this. Now this part, yes, there's no wrong way to decorate this. You could decorate this however your little heart desires. You could add anything you want. You could take out anything you want. I mean, I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of things that you guys have that you guys would love to use in your Halloween projects. Now, most of us all go shopping to the same stores, and most of us all have the same stuff because we see each other's hauls, and when we like something from somebody's hauls, then we run to that store and we go and we get it. So I'm pretty sure that some of you guys have some of these little items offhand, which is perfect because if you guys liked the look on my little boot and you guys want to use the same things I used, that is perfect, right? But if you guys don't have it, don't worry, guys, because I'm pretty sure that you guys have something else that's even better that you could basically use. You could use any kind of size lace. If you want the lace to be a little bit bigger, you can go ahead and use that. This one is super little. I just thought it was super cute. And I'm going to be making quite a few of these boots to give away to my little family members. So you guys are going to see some more of these boots coming out. And we're also going to go ahead and do this on our live tomorrow. So you guys definitely come in on our live at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we're going to be making these little boots. Then like this, we could interact. And if you have any questions or whatever, you could ask me right there and then. So right here, I'm just going to go ahead and cut out some spider web out of this glittered paper. This is a paper that was a scrap. So this is why I always tell you guys, save your scraps. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out this little spider web. And I like to turn it just to make sure that, you know, it's all these little intricate cuts are cut properly. And I really don't have to worry too much about this because this is a Michaels die. And usually Michaels dies are very good. But had this been a die from like AliExpress or something, that move, I would definitely do it just to ensure that the cut does come out perfectly. So like I said, I went ahead and I cut out this spider web out of that glittered white paper because I wanted that glitter to pop. I know you can't see it on the camera, but you know, that's what we're doing. Now, right here, guys, you are seeing me do clusters of lace. And I like to do this when I want to add a lace to something, but I just want a little cluster. So what I do is just kind of like if you were doing the rosette, throw some hot glue on the bottom, scrunch up that little lace into like a little flower almost, and then get the bottom part of that lace all full of glue and let it dry. And just do this as many times as you guys want. You guys are going to see how I use these little lace bundles. I call them lace bundles because they're just bundles of lace that you want to add here and there just to give, you know, a project some extra little accents and extra little dimensions. I actually like doing this a lot, and I feel that this is like super duper easy to do. So you're going to see me do a few of these, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of add these in between the flowers. And then it's also going to look like, you know, like they're little lace flowers themselves or lace ruffles, whatever you guys want them to look like. This part is optional. Again, you guys don't have to do this, but it is nice. So right here, like I said, I'm only going to go ahead and make about like 4 of them, but I'm only going to end up using about 3 of them. So once you guys got these down, if you guys are going to be making some of these, then you guys could go ahead and start making your little paper flowers. Some of these little paper flowers are already made. You guys have seen me pull out those little paper roses before, but there are 3 other flowers on this boot that we are going to be making, and we're going to be making with our little paper punches. If you guys have paper punch flowers, you guys could definitely use those. If you guys have silk flowers, you could definitely use those. If you guys are going to make your own flowers, however it is you guys want, you guys could definitely use those. If you don't want to use flowers, then you don't have to use flowers, my little crafty monsters. You could use whatever it is your little heart desires. So right here, this is my little paper punch, and I'm going to go ahead and cut out my little flower. I want a big flower, and then I want small little flowers going around it. So this is going to be my main flower. And then these are going to be the little flowers that I'm going to go ahead and put around it. So I'm just using paper punches. You could use whatever it is that you guys want to use. Now that orange one, I will definitely use some distress ink to go ahead and ink the edges of that flower just to give it a little bit more of a character and a dimension, as I mentioned. So I'm going to go ahead and get my bone folder and kind of curve all of these little petals. I'm curving them the opposite direction of where they're going to go. You guys will see what I mean. So I kind of do them like down, and then I fold the petal up. And this is just so that petal could curve going downwards. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue these little bad boys in a layer. But before we glue those, go ahead and just ink the edges if you're going to ink the edges. If you're not going to do that, you guys could definitely add some glue to the edges of these flowers and then dip them in glitter if you want just the edges of these flowers to be glittered, or you could just leave them like that. It is really, however you guys want to decorate this. I am using hot glue to hold this little flower down because I want to make sure that it is held and it's not going to go anywhere. Now, once you have this little bad boy all glued together, then you can go ahead and start bending the little leaves and, the petals and, kind of shaping them a little bit better. And then once you get this little bad boy glued onto the actual boot, you could arrange those little petals however you guys want as well. So on these little bad boys, I'm going to just do the same thing. However, the way these are curved up, this is the way I'm going to leave these flowers. They're going to be curved up. It's not going to be like that orange one where I curved them down and then I folded them up. No, these ones, I want these flowers to look more like daisies, black daisies, but I want them to look like the daisies are a little bit closed. They're just starting to open, not fully opened, if that makes sense. Does it make sense? It makes sense. Let's continue, my little crafty monsters. So go ahead and glue all these little layers together. Make sure that you're gluing the petals. How would I explain it? You don't want them to be right on top of each other. You want them to be off. So glue the petals off. Like, if that makes... You guys know what I'm talking about. Jesse, be quiet. You don't need to explain that. So right here, guys, I'm going to go ahead and just curve these petals back up because, like I said, I want these little flowers to look like they're kind of closed. And those cluster of lace, this is where we're going to be putting them. So we're just going to be adding some here and there. And this is why I tell you guys that making these little clusters of laces to just use as accents here and there on projects, super easy, super cute. And this is another way on using all of your materials that you have. Because if you have lace, black lace, you guys definitely are not going to use that in a lot of projects. But when Halloween comes, you could definitely use it. But then if you're not the lace type of person, you could do this with any other stuff. I bet you could even do this with like twine. Just go ahead and bunch up some twine and it'll just look like a bunch of loops and stuff like that. You could do anything you guys want. I'm going to go ahead and use some hot glue to glue down this little spider web because I want to make sure that it sticks on there and it doesn't go anywhere. And then once we got these little layers going on, then I want to go ahead and start adding my little flowers to the way I want them to be. And this part is super easy. This is going to go really, really quick, guys. Making these little boots are, they're easy. I'm telling you. I don't know how else to explain it, my little crafty monsters. I think assembling the little strips on the boot is probably the hardest. And then the tedious is probably doing that bling ribbon all around the edges. But other than that, it's all gravy, boo-boos. So this is a little flower center paper punch that I have. And I'm just going to go ahead and use my little hologram little paper or holographic. Or Jesse, why are you like tongue twisted? I don't even know what I'm saying right now. But I'm just going to go ahead and use that so we can go ahead and put that in the center of our little flowers. And we are going to be adding a little gem in the middle of this. So don't worry, guys. That flower is still not done. And these are some little spiders that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. There was 2 of them per pack, or 4 of them per pack. And these ones are different because they actually have like purple sequins glued onto the back of it. And then the rest of the spider is all black glitter, which I thought was super duper cute. And then not to mention they are fairly big. So it's like a big focus point on your little boot as well. These are the paper flowers that we will be using. I wanted to go ahead with a very dark red, a purple, and a orange. I'm hoping that those are the colors we got. I'm not 100% sure if that's blue or purple, but it's all going to be a little surprise, right, my little crafty monsters? So go ahead and start adding all of your little elements. I just went ahead and just started adding everything the way I want it to look. I haven't really glued any of those flowers down or anything like that. That little reservation sign in the background, I wanted it to
you know, I want it to be right there because I thought it was cute. It says check in here, reservations, but never check out or something like that. It says really, it's super cute. It's a spooky little one. So before we glue that little bad boy on there, I will want to distress it just to make it look a little bit more worn out and weathered and stuff like that. These are like gems that we have. I mean, we also have some black flat back gems. And kind of like the flatback pearls. I don't know why I always say it like that. Ay, Jesse, cállate. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get our little distressing tool by Tim Holtz, because you know I love to use this. And we're going to go ahead and just distress the edges. I'm just kind of focusing on the side and the very top because nobody's going to see the bottom because it's going to be tucked into those flowers. And then we want to go ahead and pull out some little witches legs. These are super cute. I purchased these at the Hobby Lobbies, and I'm going to take out 3 of them because I don't know which ones I want to use, but I do know that I want to use some of these, and so I think I'm just going to go ahead and go with the purple ones. If those are purple, are they purple? Yeah, they're purple. Let's just say they're purple. And if they're not, we won't tell Jesse. Because either way, they still look cute. So we're going to go ahead and make these look like they're kind of sticking out from behind the little flowers. I did glue these down and I did kind of F it up, guys, because I forgot to put my little sign first. So we're going to go ahead and take that off. And take 2, guys. So take off those little witches' legs because we kind of messed it up. And so you guys are going to see. We're going to take them off right now because then I realized it. And I said, what? Oh, heck. You done messed it all up, Yesy. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue my little sign. Then we'll go ahead and glue those little witches' legs onto our boot. So, I mean, you could do it in whatever order you guys want. I mean, this is, you know, you probably are not going to do one identical like mine because you might have different items than I do. But for the most part, you know, if you are using these, make sure your little witch's legs are in front of the signs. Now, we're going to go ahead and just add some of these buttons. These are some really cute buttons that I purchased at the Hobby Lobbies in the sewing section. They had some buttons on sale one day. I think they were like 50% off. So I grabbed a bunch of those little bags of these buttons, and the reason why was because they're so sparkly and they're really pretty. So that's why you see I have a container full of them because I love to use those. Now for the center of this one, we're using this flatback black heart gem. Damn, that's a tongue twister. Flatback black heart gem. You guys try to say that really fast and see how that comes out. So right here, we're just going to go ahead and glue our little spider onto the corner of our boot, kind of making it look like it's going down to eat that little witch's legs. And so far, my little crafty monsters, we are almost done. Like, seriously, this is really easy and really cute to make. Like, it was not even hard at all. I know this video is basically an hour long. I know it is, guys. But you guys have sat down and watched live videos for about an hour and a half. So, you know, what is a little hour tutorial? It's not going to hurt. And then hopefully it gives you the inspiration to try one of these, because I honestly think that, you know, making these little bad boys are super duper easy and cute. And then if you're giving these away to somebody, I mean, just think the expression on that person's face when they receive one of these, I think is going to be like, they're just going to be blown away. So right here, I'm just going to go ahead and add some little star gems and some other little teardrop kind of gems here and there, because I kind of want to give little sparkle to the rest of the boot as well. Little areas where it's kind of empty. And I'm going to go ahead and use the regular hot glue on this. Originally, if I was going to put down something that's kind of slick surface, like that flatback black heart, and like these little guys, I would have normally used the E6000 because that would be more secure than the hot glue. You guys all know that sometimes when the hot glue dries, and if it's a really like plastic or metal or any kind of slick surface, it basically sometimes will come off because that glue doesn't really have anywhere to hold on. So I would have normally used some E6000. That's what I would recommend, guys, if you're going to add some of these kind of gems onto your project. But for the sake of this video, I'm just using my hot glue because it's offhand and it's right here. So now we're going to go ahead and work on the backside. I'm just going to go ahead and use some regular glue to glue down these little bad boys on here. And I will be using some little black spider sequences that you guys saw me purchase from the Hobby Lobbies. And we're going to go ahead and just do that to this back part of the boot. We're not really going to decorate it too much, but we don't want it to be all completely plain. So we will be adding a few elements. This is the part where I do end up using the E6000 to add these little black sequence spiders. And that's because I didn't want to use a hot glue on these sequence spiders because they're so thin, it's sequence. And if I use the hot glue will have a tendency of melting them. So that is why I kind of glued these down with E6000. We're going to go ahead and add some to the very back, but since we're using E6000, I don't want it to kind of get stuck onto my working surface. And so right here, this is the part where we're going to go ahead and basically measure out the little strip for our shoelace. And this one's going to be pretty easy. Now, I do have a lot of these little strips that are kind of... they're just scrap papers, obviously, and so I'm just trying to see which one I want. I have so much stuff, guys. It is not even funny, and sometimes having so much of this stuff, I mean, you know, some of you guys are like, oh my god, you have so much stuff, you're so lucky. Yeah, I am lucky to have all this stuff. You know, Miguel has purchased me a lot of things, but it's hard because now I have so much to choose from. I don't even know what to choose. So on this part right here, we're going to go ahead and cut this strip down to 1.5 inch by 4 inches. And that's the length that I'm going to use for my little shoelace thing. Now on the edge of this, you guys could basically use some, you know, little scissors or any kind of anything to do a little edge. I cut 2 papers, one in white cardstock and the other one in the DSP paper because I want this to be pretty thick and sturdy. So that's why I'm kind of doubling it up. But we are going to bring out our Sizzix, and I have these little like border dies that do a little border like this one, like a lace. So I'm going to go ahead and use this to go ahead and do the edges of this. Now, like I said, if you guys don't have any border dies, maybe you have like a border paper punch, or maybe you have those, you know, those old school decorative scissors that do like all the little scallops and the little points and stuff like that. You could definitely use those. But if you do have some of these little border dies, it just makes it a lot easier. I'm going to go ahead and do this to both sides just to make it look kind of like a little lacy paper. And then we're going to go ahead and paper punch. We're going to punch some little holes with the hole puncher. And this is where we're going to put in our little shoelace. And just wait till you guys see the twine that I'm going to use. Oh my god, I love this twine. So once you have this little bad boy done, you can go ahead and put your Sizzix machine aside, and we're going to go ahead and bring out our paper punch to go ahead and paper punch those holes, or hole puncher I should say. These are the twines we're going to use. I got these from Z Michaels one year. No, I lie. They were from Hobby Lobbies. I don't even remember. It was one of those 2 stores though, guys. It was one of those 2 stores. It was either Michaels or the Hobby Lobbies. But anyway, they had them in the Halloween section where they have all of their Halloween stuff. And I saw these twine. It was a pack of 3. It's the orange with the gold, the black and the gold, and the purple and the gold. And I thought, oh my god, this is so cute. I need it. Of course, Jesse grabbed 2 packages because we can. I just didn't know if I was ever going to see these colored twines again. And I'm lucky that I did, because honestly, to tell you the truth, I've been to Hobby Lobbies this year and to Michael's, and I have not seen these twines. But you could use anything you guys want. If you guys want to use like a really thin little lace, you could use a lace to make it look kind of sexy. If you guys want to use just a regular black string, you could use that. I mean, there's just so many things that you guys could use as a shoelace. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and use these cute little decorative Halloween twines. And so all I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on my mat, and I'm going to run the very edges of this twine. And the reason why I do this is because this twine unravels. If you guys have worked with this, you guys will always know that every time you use this, that little metal part that goes around the twine, it unravels. So this is a way that I kind of like prevent that from happening, is I always kind of hot glue the very ends. And so right here, it's kind of tricky on to make that, you know, that, what is it, the crisscross, because of the way that the holes are. So the way that I did it was I ran it through, and you have to run it through the same hole kind of like several times. So right here I went to the opposite way to make an X. Then that one, you have to go back to the opposite little hole and bring it back out, and do the same thing to the other side and bring that back out, and then cross it to the very top, the next hole on the top, to do that little crisscross. And the reason why is because if you guys are going to be doing this, once you're at this step, you guys are going to realize what I'm talking about. It kind of skips one of the little holes when you're doing it the other way. So, you know, it's better to do it the way I'm doing it. You are going to use a little bit more of the twine, but I mean, hey, this is a Halloween twine. You only bring it out once a year, so so use it up, my little crafty monsters. And so the back part, you're not going to really worry about it because it's going to be glued onto there. So however the back looks, it doesn't really matter. But the front part, you want to make sure that it is in a little crisscross. Now, I didn't have enough to actually to tie a bow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to cut a little piece of the twine and just make a little bow, and then just glue that on the very top to make it look like the shoelace is tied. And right here, I effed it all up. This little twine, I don't know what I did with the glue, but I messed it up, so I have to redo that little bow again. And we are almost done, my little crafty monsters. Like the little shoelace thing right here, and then we're just gonna go ahead and add the little spider webs to the back of this boot, and then we are going to be completely done. So this is the part right here where I kind of messed it up, and I had to redo another one. So that's the little bow that we redid, and now we're going to go ahead and glue this strip down and just make it look like this is the lace, the shoelace part of that boot. I think this came out really cute. And how adorable and easy is this little boot, right? So now we're just going to go ahead and add our little spiders on the back and call it a day. We are going to call it a day, my little crafty monsters. So this is a paper to masterpiece creation, design, whatever you want to call it. This witch's boot right here is our own design. I should copyright this. But yeah, so I hope you guys really do try out to make one of these. And if you guys do try to make one of these, please share it with me on my Instagram, Paper to Masterpiece, or my Facebook, Paper to Masterpiece. I would love to see your guys' creations. I want to see the inspiration that I bring to you guys. So show me that inspiration, my little crafty monsters, and make you one of these little witches boots, because they are super cute and super easy.
Welcome back, my little crafty monsters. That's how easy it was to make this little bad boy right here. I mean, it did take a few steps. I know it did, boo-boos. But, you know, when you're doing something like this, I mean, it is totally worth it. And if you're going to be making this as a decoration or to even give a little treat, this is basically going to be filled with treats and some little goodies. And I'm going to give this to a friend of mine. And so that's who I made this one for. But I am going to be making a few other ones because I do have other people that I'm going to be making some for. And so I hope you guys try out this little craft project right here that Paper to Masterpiece created with our own little brain. So, I mean, it was easy, guys. If you guys want to design one of yourself, I mean, all you're going to do is just basically draw the silhouette of the boot, whatever design you want. If you want it to be a swirl, or if you want it to kind of be kind of boxed like I did, you could do that. And then you have to just figure out how thick of an actual treat box you're going to want, and you know, and then you figure that out, and then all you have to do is kind of like, depending on your design, then you just follow it and you start kind of marking where it is that you're going to have to score on that strip. So that's how we basically designed these little strips that ended up being the ones that go all along the side and the bottom and right here. And yes, we could have made one long strip, but I think the long strip would have been a little bit harder. So it really wasn't that hard to connect the three little strips, as you guys will see. So I think the most hardest part was really gluing the last layer, once everything was done, the last layer on top, to make sure that all the tabs were in there, because my little chubby hand doesn't fit in here. But maybe some of you ladies, since you have smaller hands, you guys will be able to get in there and push all these little tabs down. So that's when you saw us using our little bone folder to try to put those tabs down. But you know, we did our best and it did come out pretty good. I am very, very satisfied with how this little bad boy came out. And I hope you guys enjoyed that video as much as I enjoyed making it for you. Don't forget to subscribe. Go ahead and hit that little icon. It's a picture of moi. And then we become BFFFFs, because, you know, BFs is good. I know it is, boo. I know it is. But BFFFF is even better. So I know you guys want to be my BFFFF. So go ahead and hit the little subscribe button. And since you're already there, hit the little bell icon, because the bell icon is for you, boo-boos, so that you guys don't miss out on any time I upload new content. You guys will be up to date with all of the upcoming videos I put out. And also give us a thumbs up, because that helps us grow our channel. Go ahead and share with your friends, because sharing is caring, my little crafty monsters. And I don't want you to be little selfish crafty monsters. I want you to learn to share. So tell all your friends about Paper to Masterpiece. Share the love. And until next time, my little crafty monsters.